0. We are back.
Back.
January 22nd, 2023.
23.
Crazy. Man, time just flies.
2023.
We wanted to do a video a while back, but we were going other directions, literally, on the map. And we're back.
Back in action, baby.
Yeah. We got Brian here. Norris, retired. First sergeant in the Army, over 20 years. Been all over the world. Fighting for the, unfortunately,
Captain
nowadays,
America.
divided states of America. I got a quote here from Marcus Cicero. The closer the collapse of the empire, the crazier its laws are. I mean, I don't know if anything can be any more to the point than this one.
Well, if that's the metrics,
Yeah.
I think we're past it.
I think so too. That's why I was just going to hand the mic off to you right now and touch up on this Atlanta BS that's happening, and of course the border and everything.
It's by design.
Yeah.
It's 100% by design. You mean to tell me we can't shut down a group of people that can't decide what gender they are in one of America's largest metropolitan areas?
Why is it so hard?
It's not. They're choosing for it to be difficult. Just like they chose for it to be difficult in Seattle. It fits some narrative or agenda that they're wanting to push. Who knows? I mean, say what you want to say about that side of the fence, but they're not completely stupid. They know what they're doing.
Like they can't close the border off. Like it's so complicated to do so.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Do you know that every major general in United States Army history served on the border of Mexico until Eisenhower. And then after Eisenhower was president, that changed. It was a militarized zone. Why did it change? It changed because it was free labor. It all boils down to money.
Yeah.
We're getting slave labor, indentured servitude. There's more slaves in the world today than there were during the Great Civil War of the United States.
We're not supposed to talk about that. We just got to be only sticking.
Nobody wants to talk about the slaves working in the chicken houses right down the road from us.
Yeah.
And the slaves that made this computer, that assembled our iPhones, that sewn our clothes. We're all guilty of it. I'd be a lying hypocrite if I said that we weren't. But I know I limit the purchases that I make from places like China and stuff, but it's unavoidable. You can't buy chicken that's not produced by indentured servitude.
It's unbelievable. So speaking of that, made in China, right? So I moved out to great state of Arkansas, and here's me, city boy, coming out, buying John Deere hat, right? Whatever it was, John Deere or something. Yeah. I'm at a Tractor Supply. I'm going to be a cowboy, whatever.
Well, how does that make you feel?
I just
from your roots.
I got to say, when I looked, it was just a total accident, switching hats or whatever. I looked on the tag and it says made in China. And I know it's not for many people like, oh yeah, we knew. I really didn't think that John Deere hat that I bought in Arkansas from Tractor Supply that was going to read made in China. This is where I really just kind of like not lost it, but it hit me. Said, wow, it's America's really lost, like in so many ways.
And that was proven evident during COVID. It's sad because if you don't make stuff, there's no stuff at all, and there's a certain subset of the population that's always just going to want to do mediocre tasks, mindless tasks all day long. They're completely happy with doing the same thing day in, day out, every day, collecting a decent pay, and then going and living their lives. They don't want to do anything, and that's fine. We need people like that in society. Not everyone wants to be Elon Musk, believe it or not. Some people really want a very mild, quiet, tempered life, and they're happy with their little box and their little job and moving forward. Those are going away. Totally. We're shipping them off to Mexico. We've been shipping them off to China for a long time. Some's coming back, but the majority's going out. But if you export all your manufacturing jobs, your middle of the road jobs, what do you have left?
So we are exporting jobs, but not exporting goods. Right?
No.
We are importing, but importing goods, not making anything, When I say not making anything, we are making something. But for the most part, everything is imported. But we are exporting.
Another thing that's by
Workers.
design. It wasn't just over 2 years ago that we were exporting oil, gas and oil. And now my gas bill here has more than 4 times what it was a year ago.
Okay.
We have the largest stockpiles of natural gas in the world. Why?
So when we bought our ranch 2 years ago, I think I told you this, but I think it's important to mention on the video. It was a propane tank, right? I got the same propane tank that was 2 years ago. Used the same company, same amount of fill up, which is basically like 60%. Because I usually, when it's at 20, I call them up and they don't fill it up all the way to 100%. So it's I believe 200-gallon propane tank, $600, like $598, and it was just around $280 2 years ago. Okay, this again, we
on
are
purpose.
We are looking at a complete, unfortunately, complete collapse of society. We're staring right at it, and we always try to focus.
I wouldn't say collapse. An engineered deconstruction.
Deliberate act to destroy the middle class.
Yeah.
So what do we do about it? That's the $10 trillion. What are we in debt right now?
I mean, that is a $35 trillion question. Right?
35 trillion, 20 trillion missing from 2 decades ago. They can't find $20 trillion.
Have you met Charlie Fuqua yet?
No.
He's a local attorney, academic thinker. And he called me up the other day and said, hey, I want to just sit and chat with you for a little bit. I got some stuff I want to run by you. And he had been studying monetary policy for 30 years. I mean, Charlie, he's in his late 70s. And he laid out this principle about how money is created. And it's created from debt. And unless you have a constant supply of debt, they can't create any more money.
If borrowing stops, the music stops with.
But all the money is created from the banks. And in order to create the money, they have to borrow the money. And the United States government is a customer of the largest private bank in the world called the Fed. The Fed is not a governmental organization. And they borrow money from the Fed, increase the debt, and everything keeps moving along. Do you know, up until 3 weeks ago, there was a limit on how much money that banks could loan out for every dollar they had in their reserves. Meaning, if you give them $5, then that means they can loan out 9 times that amount or 10 times that amount, right? So if you give them $1, they can loan it out 10 times. 3 weeks ago, there is no limit now.
Debt ceiling, whatever they call it.
No, it wasn't a debt ceiling thing. No, it was an act. It was part of the omnibus thing that was signed into law. There is no fractional debt ratio.
Yeah, they keep raising it.
But
it's unlimited.
It's unlimited now.
There is no
by law.
There is no cap.
Well, there is still a debt ceiling law. They just moved the debt ceiling up, so they kicked the can down the road. But they haven't, constitutionally, they're supposed to pass a budget every year. They haven't done it in, 40, 50 years now, something like that. What this is how the bank systems create money. Now, up until 3 weeks ago, they had a limit, a 9-to-1 ratio. Now there's no limit. So that means that a bank right down the road here that creates nothing, they create nothing. They write a check against themselves to give you money for a mortgage. Used to, the only check on that was how many reserve money do they have the people putting in for savings and checking and all that stuff. So the banks had to take a daily average for the past month, and they could loan out 9 times that amount. So if the bank held a daily average,
that would actually have reserves.
They would actually have some
reserve,
9 to 1.
Reserves and not federal.
91. Now it's over. So it doesn't matter how much money the bank down the road has on a daily average in its account. It doesn't matter. If somebody comes in and they're like, I want a $5 million loan. Okay, here you go. There's no check.
Well, think about it. Even back in the day, just think of it this way. You go in and let's say apply for a credit card. Go in, meaning whatever, make a phone call, or you are actually at the bank or whatever, right? You get your credit card. They look at supposedly your credit score and say, okay, Brian Norris, your credit is the X amount, whatever the score is. You got this much income coming in, blah, blah, blah. This is what your debt is so far. We're giving you $10,000 on your credit card, right? You get like whatever, 25% interest on all that other crap.
Which is usury.
And where is this money coming from? It is supposed to be on this piece of plastic that they just created money out of thin air. But I've done a lot of videos on this on the New American Realist show, trying to talk about the Federal Reserve, like you just mentioned, and let people know, like, listen, at some point this music has to stop. How long do we have? I don't know. Nobody has a crystal ball.
No.
But if you don't have, again, we try to focus on solutions here. What do you do? I know it sounds like, I'm beating on the drum here, beating on a dead horse. I know nowadays you're not even supposed to say that because you can offend somebody.
Who cares?
But you gotta have real money in your possession.
Well, you also have
which
to
is gold
secure
and silver.
You have to secure the staples. You have to have shelter. You have to have a constant supply of food. And you have to be able to protect yourself to some point and fend off things. Right?
Oh, yeah, that's like number one. If you don't have that, like why would you go into looking to buy some gold if you don't even have
a means to protect yourself?
Food and water set up. That's a must.
You have to. And you have to not only get the tools needed to defend yourself, but you need to learn how to do it. Because there's nothing more stupid than the individual that goes out and buys a gun and thinks they're good to go. That's absolutely, you're probably less safe in that regard if you've never trained with it. Because there's all kinds of variables that's going to come out in a situation which you need to use that weapon that if you haven't trained on, it's just going to be a hindrance to you. For example, in 2016, the United States Army did a survey. And in Afghanistan, and hand to hand, there were, at that point in time, there were 27 soldiers that had died from a knife. Out of the 27 times that the soldier had died with a knife, they brought the knife 27 times. So that means that they were killed with their own knife 100% of the time.
Just
and it was because
getting it out, not knowing what to do. And
the U.S. Army does not have a standardized issue knife. So there was no training incorporated with a knife. Soldiers would bring all kinds of crazy knives with them to combat. And then they would try to use it when they got in a hand-to-hand situation. And then that individual would take the knife away from them, use it against them, game over.
Yeah, I remember you were telling me that stat when we talked about a couple of months ago. And I'm glad you mentioned it on the video. It is very important. Knife, gun, whatever it is.
Whatever.
Everybody wants to be a cowboy. Yeah, I got this gun I bought,
Everybody romanticizes about combat until they start bleeding.
That you have to use it. That's the last thing you want, is to have to use it. So many, like you said, so many things can go wrong. But the reason, again, we're talking about this is because when you tied up all this mess that's happening right now with open borders, right? Mm-hmm. We've got Antifa doing what they're doing now with Atlanta. That's going to go from city to city. Crime is going to escalate. Why? Because you're going to need more dollars to buy same goods, use same services that you did today. Is going to cost double every other week. And what's going to happen, I believe, it's called crack up boom, which means, if I don't go to the store right now and buy up as much as I can, let's say if it's canned foods or whatever, they create this crack up boom. It looks like economy is booming. People are spending money, but they're racking up credit cards. They know they can't pay them, but they're getting something real for it, or they're using the cash under the pillows, literally, to go into the store to buy something because they rather have something real. And this is the biggest threat that no one can control. Why? Because you can't control human nature. Now they're scaring people with nukes, right? You got in New York, ads are coming out. They have them on those neon lights across Manhattan. In case of, nuclear threat, here's the steps. Take a shower, go into the bathroom, in the bathtub, hide under the table. Yeah.
That's concerning too, because I don't think it would be. I don't necessarily believe that we have to worry about Russia when it comes to nukes. It's more the Western powers that we would have to worry about with nukes. I think we would use them way before Russia would. And the situation in Ukraine, what is the West going to do now that it's clear? It's clear that Russia is going to win. The only question is now, will Putin stop with the eastern half of Ukraine, or will he push all the way west?
Yeah, great question, right?
He has a couple of decisions. He has a couple of questions he has to answer. Does he believe, and this is what he stated, he believes that Western Ukraine would be happier under Polish rule. He said that publicly. And I think he's right. However, if he allows Poland to absorb Western Ukraine, they are now that much closer to Moscow with no serious major terrain features between Moscow and the border of a NATO country. So that's not very popular in his mind either. So the other dilemma, does he want to deal with having to control an anti-Russian population in Western Ukraine? Because Eastern Ukraine is very pro-Russian. He doesn't have to exert a lot of resources to control them. They want to be Russian.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know any about that.
But
yeah,
it's the truth. Whether you know it or not, it's the truth. They want to be Russian. And so what? Let them be it. The West is not that. Western Ukraine is not necessarily that way. So it would take an enormous amount of resources to quell guerrilla tactics, rebellion, and all these things. These headaches that, honestly, the man, I don't believe, wants to deal with. But he's faced with a quid 22. What's going to be the best solution? And either one that they choose is going to put the West then in a decision mode. Do we allow Russia to dictate terms on the continent of Europe with no answer from NATO? Or does NATO unilaterally say no and go into action? Now, they may force this hand because stupidly, very stupidly, we are sending Patriot missile systems to help Ukraine. This is idiotic. The war is already over. This Patriot weapon system takes at least 3 to 6 months to learn how to operate. And it's enormously expensive to keep running. And it's a single area protection. It will not protect a very large area. They may be able to protect a small part of Kiev with one battery that we're sending them, or one battalion. But they're not going to be able to protect the entire capital of Kiev with it. A lot of people don't understand that. It's a one-directional radar that's going to be picking up an intercept. And the missiles are $2 to $3 million a piece. And you got to fire 2 missiles per target to ensure that your P-kill, your probability kill ratio, is high. It's insane that we think that this is... It's not. Honestly, we're going to have to field either German soldiers, Polish soldiers that know how to operate the Patriot missile system and get it in country, because the Ukrainians are not going to be able to do it quick enough.
Yep. And
then you have the added question of Germany sending the Leopard tanks. If they send the Leopard tanks, they're demanding that the U.S. send its Abrams. Well, the Abrams is a phenomenal tank. And so if we send this tank over there that has a jet engine, by the way, and all these other electronic craziness associated with it, they're not going to be able to operate it. So who's going to operate it? It's going to have to be us. Now you're faced with a dilemma. A U.S. troop, a NATO troop, operating a Patriot system, operating a Leopard tank, operating an Abrams tank, and you think that Russia's not going to engage those and kill them? Well, they are. So now you have an American soldier, German soldier, Polish soldier, NATO soldier shot and killed by Russian military.
Official war. Yeah, we're heading that direction. They have to divert from what's going on here. They have to take us to war. What did Gerard Celente said? It was a video I sent you.
I don't think it's diverting from what's happening here. They've been wanting to do this for a very long time.
But it'll be an excuse to print more, right? In the war, we
What-
need more
what
money. We need more
what
money.
we-
Let's print more.
What we are thinking the excuse is going to be can't be. And I say that because I've been hearing this since 2012. There's certain things that, and there was a very high-ranking general that told us this, you have to prepare your population for war before you go into a conflict. And he laid out all these different scenarios in which that they would do that. We have been steadily doing every single one of those things since 2012 to go to war with Russia. I mean, think back to that election. Russian disinformation. You remember Romney in 2012 brought up that they were our greatest geopolitical threat?
Quick question of Crimea. Where was when Russians took...
February 2024.
So that was
February 2014.
2014. Okay,
Yes.
so 2 years after. So
Yeah,
that
I
was
had been...
Okay.
I was on a NATO assignment. I was in Rapid Reaction Corps France, and I'd only been there 3 months when that happened. And so I saw all of that.
And you thought at the time this already escalated to the point, like you thought that you guys were going to be going in.
I didn't think that would necessarily be a catalyst for an arm-to-arm conflict, peer-to-peer conflict, but they were setting the stage. And then they were so eager to get everyone to do that. But the political appetite was not there yet. A lot of people were still being very reserved. But now you're facing a situation like, how many Americans have demonized Russia and, full-fledged support of Ukraine and don't know any reason why they're really supporting Ukraine? It's just Russia bad. And it doesn't even matter that the Russian disinformation hoax of 2016 has been proven to be a hoax. From the Twitter files, from the Democratic Party campaign email leaks.
You're talking about the whole deal with Trump and
everything.
2016.
Everything that they've tried to say Russia has done has been proven false. So why do people still continue to believe them? It's because they've been programmed. Just like this general said, they've prepared the population for war.
And right now, the way you sound, it's the way you painted this picture. There is no way out. It's priced in.
It may be baked into the cake, and never underestimate the stupidity of the American politician, okay? You can't take that off the table because if we go to war with Russia, it is probably the most stupidest decision that we can make in the last 100 years. But that doesn't mean anything to these people. I mean, they live in a bubble, they're raised in a bubble, they're fed information that's pipeline stovepipe to them, they're living in a fallacy land.
And they are creating bubbles.
They're creating their
creating bubbles. They're very good at that.
I call it, they're living a life of a self-licking ice cream cone. They literally create their own isms of everything, and they think that they're so elite, so right, so just, so good. It's kind of like the let them eat cake. Marie Antoinette was so oblivious to the plight of the impoverished right outside her gate that when she was served an enormous cake, she just said, well, let them eat cake. Mm-hmm. It's the same elitist mindset that we have going on right now, and I've witnessed it. We went from a meritocracy to where your merit got you these positions and got you these things to very, very, very quickly, it's the good old boys club. It's who you know. Do you say the right things? Are you a yes man? Do you fall in line? Do you say the party line? And Obama eradicated the senior ranks of any opposition in the military, and they quickly became yes men. And that followed down through the military academies and the officer corps and OCS and all that stuff to where now if you're a major and above, you're a company man. You're not a career officer. You're a company man. And you lean heavily in a political spectrum. I remember when it was so taboo when I first came in, and for the first 5, 7, 8 years of my career, you didn't know the political leanings of your superiors. You had no clue. They were apolitical. It was not. And if someone did, it was just, you just didn't do it. It was a line that you didn't cross. And then all of a sudden in 2010, 2009, 2010, around the time Obama came in, it started happening, very politicized. But then when Trump came in, it just reached whole new heights. And then as soon as they were able to identify the ones that were aligned with Trump and all that stuff, and there was a changing of the guard, they've been cleaning house like nobody's business. And it's not just the officer corps anymore; it's the NCO corps now. So you have a selection-based promotion system now. It's incredible. Not an meritocracy.
Wow.
So if you are not selected, you're not going to be promoted. Period. And your selection process is based off of what those already pre-approved company men say about you. If the right person says the right things about you on this sheet that is presented to a selection committee or board, then you're good to go. If not, you don't have a chance in hell. Doesn't matter how many awards you got. It doesn't matter how many times you deployed. It doesn't matter what schools you've been to. None of that is going to matter. And it's blatant and in the open now.
So we've got basically implosion of the currency. It's happening. Mm-hmm. We've got social unrest on steroids right now as we speak. And it hasn't really, a lot of people, again, don't know about it unless you are maybe on Twitter or something. You can see some videos that people post because mainstream media is not going to show what's going on, for instance, in Atlanta.
Twitter has been amazing since Musk took over, hasn't it not? I mean,
I've been having a good time, as most of people that follow me know. I haven't been...
well, when you came in today, what was I watching?
Russian television, RT.
Russia Today.
Yeah.
I even watched...
it was Russian Today. I didn't know.
Yeah, Russia Today. And Al Jazeera Network. I'll watch that one as well. France 24, which is another one. I'll watch that one as well. And I'll watch CNN, Fox News. I'll watch little bits of all these just to try to get a picture.
So this is I like how you just kind of like mentioned that, because it brings our video now to a closure in a way. How to prepare for what is going on. Number one is think for yourself. For instance, watch Russia Today, Russian television, whatever you want to call it.
Critically thinking.
Watch CNN. Watch Fox News a little bit, whatever it is, like you said, critical thinking, so you can put your own 2 cents at the end and figure out, you know what, I want to hear from all sides, and then figure it out instead of what is Marco telling me, what is Brian telling me, what is Trump saying, what is Biden saying. No, I don't care. I want to put it all together, come up with my own conclusions, and most importantly, what I've been doing with Brian and the way we've been kind of on the same page with the mindset, understanding what's happening, is to find like-minded individuals that are self-sufficient, so you can barter. For instance, I've got whatever, cows. You've got a gym where I can come in and be healthy, whatever, right? You've got gold. You've got guns.
I get free milk and butter because I train their kids.
There you go.
So that's the trade-off there. I haven't purchased milk or butter and I don't know how long. But 6 months, 7 months, because I train them. But on that, in the event that there is a peer-peer or near-peer conflict, let's just say that there is, and something does happen, if you're in a city, even if there's not a nuclear attack, you're still going to be in a very, very bad way. Because if total war is declared, then that means 51% of America's economy has to be directed to the war effort.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I believe that's coming.
All the food, that means all the food stocks, all the grain supplies.
Got to go to military.
All the manufacturing.
And it's by law.
By law.
Yes, it has to happen. A lot of people are not.
Hey, your little dairy farm?
They're not.
There's going to be some green suit dude that's going to show up and being like,
correct.
That's coming with me.
This is the cow that I'm taking today because it's for national security. Those are the key words that you're going to hear. So how to go around this? Use your imagination. There's only so much we can say on YouTube channel, but you got to be aware of what's going on here. And yeah, you don't go out there and buy some physical gold, for instance, if you don't have food, water, and all the resources you need. We talked about training, getting outside. Can you provide a meal for your family? Like right now, I'm not talking about you got some canned food in the storage, because that goes pretty quickly. I knew before all this nonsense with the, health event that took place. I didn't know that was going to happen right there and then, but I knew something was coming. So I stocked up. I lived in Florida at the time. It was a pantry. I don't know how many cans of food I had, but it was a lot. I'm talking like people that came over, they looked at me like, "Are you okay?
Well,
like, what's going?" And it's all gone. It was like in 6 months, it was all gone.
And what's the worst that's going to happen? You have some extra food? If you never have to use it, you know what I mean? If a calamity never happens or an issue never happens, what's the worst that's going to happen from stockpiling?
I know, because you know how many times I just didn't get a chance to go to the store and have, like, let's say bananas or oranges. And I'm like, you know what? I got this. I know it's not the same. I get it. I got this pineapple in the can. And I got some yogurt for kids.
Freeze dried.
Yes, just take it out. And it was like good to go. But yeah, it went down so fast that supply I thought was going to last me a lot longer. I was just shocked how quickly that was gone. So you got to close the video off, train yourself like you did not have that.
Yeah.
Can you used it all up. Can you go out there and hunt and make that meal? And I've done some stuff that I can't believe that I ended up doing. When I moved into country, and I felt a lot better.
Can you go a day without eating and still function? Have you ever done that?
I've been through some situations where I lived where
that would be more for our audience.
Yeah.
Can you be comfortable with uncomfortable? Being hungry is pretty uncomfortable.
I mean, it really comes down to fluids. If you have access to water, then I would be okay for the whole day for sure. I
Absolutely.
know that. But if water is key, and for instance, when I purchased the property, I wanted to make sure I got some water access. I looked around. I saw a pond. It was like a live creek going on. You got a lot of rain. It's almost like waterfalls.
You have a well too, don't you?
I do not, but that's the plan too as well. Anything that I talked about, the generator, I mentioned propane, stuff like that. But again, we don't.
You're killing the environment, man.
I know. I got to be careful with.
How dare you heat?
I do have an electric stove, which I'm now.
But you're heating your house.
Yeah.
And providing warmth to your children from.
I got electric stove,
gas.
And for Kamala Harris or whoever is out there, please don't go after me. I have electric stove. That's for sure.
Maybe we should all buy electric cars and just park them in the front.
I did have an electric car. I'm actually
put a Ukraine flag on your house. There you go.
Oh, then you're good to go for sure. Yeah, you're good to go. That would be a sign of I align with the agenda and the narrative.
Wear a mask.
Oh, well, if you put a mask on, then you are good to go. You might get like.
If you have a Ukrainian flag mask.
Now you're really pushing it.
First class, baby.
So you guys heard it. Put a Ukrainian mask on, and you'll get everything for free. But we all know there is no such thing as free lunch, and you better be able to provide for your family. There is no investing, trading advice here. It sounds like life advice. We're just two regular guys trying to make sense out of this nonsense and hoping
I'm not going to go hungry, Marco.
Me neither.
I won't go hungry.
You
can go hungry if you want to.
I was in a tough spot way back in the day, and I said, I did not run away from a communist country to deal with it again. I'm going to go out swinging, whatever it takes. And with that, I hope a lot of you guys do the same. So thank you again, Brian Norris. I'm sure we're going to make another video again, man. By the way, I said 5 times I was going to close the video off. We go off script, as you guys can tell, completely.
Ad-lib, baby.
Yes. I just call them up. Hey, are you available today? Let's shoot a video. No topic. We just say, okay, let's mention this would have been maybe a good title, and we just go off. So I hope you guys appreciate that. I hope this helps you out a little bit. Let us know what you think in the...
we did try scripting the first couple of times.
And that really did not work out.
No.
It's better just like this, whatever. Yeah.
It's more real.
I think it is. I'm pretty sure a lot of people think the same. And I hope you guys do your own videos too. Speak out. Don't be afraid. What do you got to lose? I mean, we lost a lot already, so...
Well, we wouldn't be in this situation if more good men would stand up and do the right thing.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, it's our fault.
It's all our fault.
It's our fault.
But hey, listen, it's not too late, man.
We get the government we deserve.
We get the government. Maybe we should title it we get the government we deserve.
Sounds pretty sweet.
All
Rolls
right.
off the tongue.
We are out.